This is Noodles Around the World, where every country has its own noodle dish. Starting with Japan. What if I told you, one of Japan's most iconic foods did not actually begin in Japan? Ramen was originally inspired by Chinese wheat noodles brought to Japan in the late 1800s, but over time, Japan transformed it into something completely different. Today, ramen is almost a national obsession. What makes ramen special is the broth. Some bowls take more than 10 hours to prepare. Tonkatsu ramen uses pork bones boiled until the soup becomes rich and creamy. Shoyu ramen is lighter and flavored with soy sauce, while miso ramen has a deeper and slightly sweet flavor. In Japan, ramen is more than fast food. Many people treat famous ramen shops almost like fine dining restaurants. Some restaurants only sell a few hundred bowls a day before closing. And unlike many noodle dishes around the world, slurping loudly in Japan is actually considered polite because it shows you are enjoying the meal. In China, some noodle chefs can turn one piece of dough into thousands of noodles using only their hands. That dish is called Lamian, which literally means pulled noodles. The process looks almost unreal. A chef stretches and folds the dough again and again until thin noodles appear naturally without cutting. Lamian became famous in northwestern China, especially among Hui Muslim communities. The noodles are often served in rich beef broth with chili oil, cilantro, and hand-sliced radish. What makes Lamian unique is the texture. Because the noodles are hand-pulled instead of machine-made, they feel softer, chewier, and more elastic. Today, hand-pulled noodle restaurants exist all over the world, but watching a real Lamian master work in person still feels like performance art. In Korea, this dark black noodle dish became one of the biggest comfort foods in South Korea. Jjajangmyeon is made with thick wheat noodles covered in a black bean sauce called chunjang. The sauce is cooked with pork, onions, and sometimes seafood. The dish actually came from Chinese immigrants living in Korea more than 100 years ago. But Korea changed the flavor over time, making it sweeter and heavier than the original Chinese version. Today, jjajangmyeon is deeply connected to Korean culture. There is even a day called Black Day on April 14th where single people gather to eat jjajangmyeon together. In Korea, this is also one of the most common delivery foods. Many people grow up eating it during birthdays, graduations, and late-night study sessions. Its appearance may look simple, but for millions of Koreans, this dish feels nostalgic. In Thailand, pad thai became world famous because it perfectly balances sweet, sour, salty, and spicy flavors in one plate. The dish uses rice noodles stir-fried with tamarind sauce, fish sauce, egg, tofu, or shrimp. Bean sprouts and crushed peanuts, but surprisingly, pad thai is not an ancient dish. It became popular during the 1930s when the Thai government promoted noodle to reduce rice consumption during economic difficulties. That campaign worked so well that pad thai eventually became Thailand's most internationally recognized food. One reason people love pad thai is the texture contrast. Soft noodles, crunchy peanuts, fresh lime, and crisp bean sprouts all exist together in one bite. Even inside Thailand, every street vendor makes pad thai slightly differently, which means no two plates taste exactly the same. Pho is one of the most carefully balanced noodle soups in the world. At first glance, it looks simple. Rice noodles, herbs, broth, and thin slices of meat. But the broth itself can take many hours to make correctly. Traditional pho broth is slowly simmered with beef bones, cinnamon, star anise, ginger, and onion. The result is light but deeply aromatic. Pho became especially important in Vietnam after periods of hardship and war because it was affordable, filling, and easy to share among families. Today, many Vietnamese people eat pho for breakfast instead of lunch or dinner. One of the most interesting things about pho is customization. Some people add lime, chili, basil, or bean sprouts. Others prefer the soup untouched to preserve the original flavor. That flexibility helped pho spread globally while still remaining deeply Vietnamese. From the western tip of Indonesia comes one of Southeast Asia's boldest noodle dishes. Mie Aceh is famous for its thick yellow noodles and intensely spiced curry-like sauce. The dish comes from Aceh, a region historically connected to Indian, Arab, and Chinese trade routes. Because of that, the flavors feel very different from many other Indonesian noodles. Mie Aceh often includes spices like cumin, cardamom, turmeric, and chili. It can be served dry, stir-fried, or with rich curry broth. Seafood is especially common because Aceh has a long coastline connected to major trading ports. One reason this noodle stands out is the strength of its aroma. Before you even taste it, you can already smell the spices from a distance. For many Indonesians, Mie Aceh feels heavier, hotter, and more intense than ordinary noodle dishes. This smoky noodle dish became legendary because of one important detail: fire. Char kway teow uses flat rice noodles stir-fried over extremely high heat with soy sauce, shrimp, egg, bean sprouts, and Chinese sausage. The best versions have something called wok hei, which means breath of the wok. It describes the smoky flavor created when noodles cook quickly over blazing fire. The dish became popular among labor workers because it was cheap, oily, filling, and high in energy. Today, many Malaysians consider great char kway teow almost impossible to recreate at home because most kitchens cannot generate enough heat. The noodles may look simple, but cooking them correctly requires speed, timing, and experience. Italy. Italy transformed noodles into an art form. Spaghetti is one of the most recognizable foods on earth, but authentic Italian spaghetti is often much simpler than people expect. Traditional Italian recipes usually focus on only a few ingredients done extremely well. Spaghetti aglio e olio uses garlic, olive oil, and chili flakes. Spaghetti carbonara traditionally uses eggs, cheese, black pepper, and cured pork. No cream. That surprises many people outside Italy. The noodle itself also matters deeply. Italians care about texture so much that pasta is commonly cooked al dente, meaning firm to the bite. Spaghetti became globally famous partly because dried pasta could be stored for long periods and transported easily across the world. Today, Italy has hundreds of pasta shapes, but spaghetti remains the symbol of Italian cuisine internationally. And in many Italian households, recipes are treated almost like family secrets passed down through generations. Hokkien mee represents Singapore's mix of cultures in one dish. It combines yellow noodles and rice vermicelli stir-fried with prawns, squid, pork, egg, and seafood stock. The dish was originally created by Chinese sailors and workers from Fujian province who adapted recipes. Using local ingredients available in Singapore, one thing that makes Singaporean Hokkien mee unique is the rich seafood flavor absorbed directly into the noodles during cooking. Many locals strongly debate which style is best. Some prefer it dry and smoky, while others like it wetter with more broth. In Singapore's hawker culture, famous Hokkien mee stalls can have lines lasting over an hour. That level of loyalty says a lot about how important noodles are in daily life there. In the Philippines, noodles are closely connected to celebration and long life. Pancit is not just one dish. It is actually a category of noodle dishes with many regional variations. Some use thin rice noodles, while others use thick egg noodles. Common ingredients include vegetables, soy sauce, pork, chicken, shrimp, and calamansi. The tradition originally came from Chinese traders centuries ago, but Filipinos transformed it into something uniquely local. One reason pancit became culturally important is because noodles symbolize long life and good fortune. That is why pancit is commonly served during birthdays and family gatherings. Different regions in the Philippines even compete over which pancit version is the best. For many Filipino families, a celebration does not feel complete without noodles on the table. In India, noodles are not always spicy street food. Sometimes they are connected to religion, family traditions, and major celebrations. Sevian, also called vermicelli noodles, are extremely thin noodles usually made from wheat. Unlike many noodle dishes around the world, sevian is often served sweet instead of savory. One of the most famous versions is sevian kheer, where the noodles are cooked with milk, sugar, cardamom, nuts, and raisins until they become soft and creamy. The dish is especially important during Eid celebrations across India and South Asia. For many families, making sevian together is part of the holiday itself. What makes this noodle unique is its emotional connection. In many homes, the smell of roasted vermicelli immediately reminds people of childhood memories and family gatherings. And despite looking simple, balancing the sweetness, texture, and spices correctly takes real skill. In a country known for intense flavors, sevian proves noodles can also represent comfort and warmth. Austria took something unexpected and turned it into noodles. Frittetensup is a soup made with thin sliced pancake strips floating inside clear beef broth. Yes, pancake noodles. The pancakes are cooked first, rolled tightly, and sliced into long thin ribbons that resemble noodles. The dish became popular because it reduced food waste. Leftover pancakes from previous meals could be reused instead of thrown away. But over time, the soup became a respected traditional dish across Austria. The contrast is what makes it memorable. The broth is light and savory, while the pancake strips stay soft and slightly buttery. For many visitors, the first reaction is confusion, then surprise. Then suddenly they understand why Austrians love it. It is proof that almost anything can become a noodle if a culture embraces it long enough. Russia's harsh winters helped shape the popularity of lapsha. Lapsha refers to traditional Russian noodle soups often made with chicken broth, vegetables, herbs, and homemade noodles. Unlike heavily spiced noodle dishes from Asia, lapsha focuses on warmth and simplicity. The noodles are usually handmade and cut into long thin strips before being added directly into the soup. For many Russian families, lapsha is associated with home cooking and recovery during illness. Similar to how chicken noodle soup is viewed in America, one reason the dish survived for generations is practicality. The ingredients were accessible even in colder regions where fresh produce was limited during winter. The result is comforting rather than flashy. And sometimes, that simplicity is exactly why people continue returning to it. Long before instant noodles existed, Turkish families were already drying noodles for long-term storage. Arist is a traditional Turkish noodle made from dough containing flour, eggs, milk, and salt. The dough is rolled thin, cut into strips, then dried naturally. Historically, families prepared huge batches together before winter arrived. That process turned noodle making into a social activity involving entire households. Arist is usually served with butter, yogurt, walnuts, or tomato base. What makes it different from many industrial noodles is the texture. Handmade arist feels denser and richer because of the egg-based dough. In rural areas of Turkey, some families still make it completely by hand using methods passed down for generations. It is less about speed and more about tradition.